The dining room table was set for 12. Sunday dinner at my parents' house, a tradition my mother insisted on maintaining. I arrived late, still processing the layoff notice I'd received 3 days earlier. "Look who finally showed up," my brother said as I walked in. He stood by the bar cart, pouring himself scotch. "The failures finally unemployed." The room went quiet for a moment, then erupted in laughter. My father looked up from his seat at the head of the table, a smirk on his face. "That's what happens to worthless people," he said. "You should have worked harder." I pulled out a chair and sat down, said nothing, just nodded slightly and reached for the water pitcher. My sister joined in. "How does it feel to finally face reality? No more pretending to be important." 20 years at that tech company and they just dumped you, my uncle added. "Says something about your value, doesn't it?" I poured water into my glass and took a sip, keeping my expression neutral. "Silent now, aren't you?" my brother continued, not so confident without a job title. My mother brought out the roast. "Well, at least now you'll have time to figure out what you're actually good at, if anything." Dinner continued like this. Every few minutes, someone added another comment, another joke at my expense. I ate quietly, responded minimally, and left as soon as it was polite to do so. Driving home, I thought about the signature request that had arrived last month, the one sitting unsigned in my desk drawer. The one they desperately needed but didn't know I controlled. The layoff had been unexpected. 22 years at Data Tech Solutions, starting as a junior developer, working my way up to senior architect. Then the company was acquired, the new owners restructured, and 300 people lost their jobs, including me. The severance package was generous. 18 months' salary, continued benefits, and stock options that had vested over the years. I'd be fine financially. Better than fine, actually. But my family saw only the unemployment, the failure, the reality check. What they didn't know was the other side of my professional life, the side I kept carefully separate for 15 years. My grandfather started Wallace Manufacturing in 1968, industrial equipment parts, specializing in precision components for machinery. Solid, unglamorous work. The company grew steadily under his management, employing about 40 people by the time I was born. When I was 16, Grandpa called me into his study. "I'm putting you in the world differently than your father and uncle," he said. "You're the only one with sense, the only one who doesn't spend money before earning it." I hadn't understood then. I was just a kid who preferred saving birthday money to spending it. Grandpa died when I was 23. The will was read, dividing his assets. My father and uncle received cash distributions, generous amounts which they spent within 3 years on luxury cars, vacation homes, and bad investments. I received something different. 49% of Wallace Manufacturing, held in trust until I turned 30. The remaining 51% was split between my father and uncle, with specific conditions. Any sale, merger, or ownership transfer of the company required unanimous approval from all shareholders. My father had been furious. He gave the kid half the company? That's insane. The lawyer had been clear. The trust is ironclad. She gets 49% at 30, and the company bylaws require her signature for any major business decisions. She doesn't know anything about manufacturing. That's irrelevant. Those are the terms. They tried to fight it, hired lawyers, contested the will, argued that Grandpa wasn't in his right mind. Everything was upheld. The trust was airtight. When I turned 30, I received my shares. By then, I was deep into my tech career, living 300 miles away. I had no interest in running a manufacturing company, but I attended the required annual shareholder meetings, reviewed the financial reports, and maintained my voting rights. My father and uncle ran the business together. It continued to do well under their management, generating steady revenue. They both drew substantial salaries. They both lived comfortable lives funded by company profits. They also both resented me, the reminder that their inheritance had been smaller, the person who held veto power over their business decisions. So I became the family failure, the disappointment, the one who just worked in computers while they ran a real business. Never mind that my tech salary eventually exceeded both of theirs. Never mind that my stock options and investments had made me quietly wealthy. I was the failure because they needed me to be. I stayed silent about my ownership stake, let them think what they wanted, showed up for the required meetings, signed the routine paperwork, and kept my financial life private. Then, 6 weeks ago, my father called. "We're selling the company," he announced. Manufacturing outfit from Ohio. Good offer. 28 million. Your cut would be about 13 million after taxes and legal fees. I'd been walking to a meeting. That's a significant decision. The lawyers are drawing up papers. We'll need your signature by the end of next month. I'll need to review everything first. Full financials, buyer information, deal terms. It's handled. Just sign when the papers arrive. I'll review it, I repeated. The packet arrived 2 weeks later. I spent 3 evenings going through every page. The buyer was legitimate. The offer was fair. The deal would close 60 days after all signatures were obtained. But the timing bothered me. I did some research, made some calls to industry contacts, and discovered that Wallace Manufacturing had recently landed a major contract with an automotive company. A 3-year deal with substantial guaranteed revenue. The contract wasn't mentioned anywhere in the sale documents. I called the buyer's representative directly. Can you tell me about the automotive contract? He hesitated. What contract? The 3-year deal with Midwest Automotive. Signed 4 months ago. Longer pause. That wasn't disclosed to us. I sent him the contract information I'd found. A week later, he called back. We're revising our offer. Based on the new information, we're now offering 42 million. 14 million more because of a contract my father and uncle had deliberately hidden from the buyer to make the company seem less valuable. They'd planned to take the 28 million offer quickly before anyone discovered the truth. Their share would be about 15 million combined. They'd walk away with that money while selling the company for 33% less than its actual value. Defrauding the buyer, defrauding me, and violating their fiduciary duty as company officers. I called the buyer back. I need to think about this. I'll have an answer by the deadline. The signature deadline was yesterday. I let it pass without signing anything. My phone started ringing Sunday evening. My father, my uncle, my brother. I didn't answer. They left voicemails, each more urgent than the last. Monday morning, my father showed up at my apartment building. The doorman called up. Tell him I'm not available, I said. He's very insistent, ma'am. Not available. My phone kept ringing. Text messages poured in. You need to sign the papers now. The deal is falling apart. Call me immediately. I turned my phone off and went for a run. By Tuesday, the calls had shifted. It wasn't just family anymore. My voicemail filled with messages from lawyers, the buyer's representatives, business brokers. Wednesday afternoon, I finally answered when my father's lawyer called. Ms. Wallace, this is Bernard Chen from Henderson Legal. I represent your father regarding the Wallace Manufacturing sale. The signature deadline has passed, and the buyer is threatening to withdraw their offer entirely. I'm aware, I said calmly. May I ask why you didn't sign? I'm still reviewing the terms. You've had 6 weeks to review. And I'm still not satisfied with the disclosure, specifically, the 3-year automotive contract that wasn't mentioned to the buyer in the initial offer. Silence on the other end. You know about that, he said finally. I know about a lot of things, including that deliberately hiding material contracts in a business sale is fraud, and that, as a shareholder, I could be held liable if this deal went through under false pretenses. Your father indicated that contract wasn't material to the valuation. The buyer disagreed. They revised their offer to 42 million when they found out. That's 14 million more. I'd say that's fairly material. More silence. What do you want, Ms. Wallace? I want an honest assessment of the company's value. I want full disclosure of all contracts and obligations. And I want time to consider whether selling is actually in the company's best interest. Your father and uncle both want to sell. They own 51% combined. I own 49%. But company bylaws require unanimous shareholder approval for any sale. They need my signature, which they won't get until I'm satisfied this is the right decision. They could make your life very difficult. They already do, I said. This isn't a negotiation. Either the sale is done properly and honestly, or it's not done at all. I hung up. Thursday morning, I received a new call, this time from the buyer's CEO directly. Ms. Wallace, I appreciate you bringing the automotive contract to our attention. Your father's attempt to hide it was concerning. I'd like to discuss a different arrangement. What kind of arrangement? We're still willing to offer 42 million for the company, as discussed. However, given the disclosure issues, we'd also be interested in acquiring only your father and uncle's shares, 51% at the proportional price, with you retaining your 49%. You remain a minority partner in the newly structured company. I thought about this. That would give you control while keeping me invested. Correct. You continue receiving dividends on your shares but wouldn't be involved in operations. Your 49% would be worth approximately $20 million at the full valuation, but you'd retain it rather than cashing out. And my father and uncle? They'd receive approximately $22 million for their combined shares. They have no further involvement with the company. I'd want some conditions: guaranteed employment for current workers for at least 2 years, maintained benefits, and no immediate restructuring that destroys what my grandfather built. We can agree to those terms. Send me a proposal. I'll review it. Friday afternoon, my father finally reached me directly. He called from my brother's phone, which I hadn't blocked yet. "You're destroying this deal," he shouted. "What the hell is wrong with you?" "Nothing is wrong with me. I'm protecting my interests as a shareholder." "Your interests?" "We're trying to make everyone rich." "By committing fraud? By hiding a major contract to artificially lower the sale price? That's illegal, Dad." "That contract was none of their business until after the sale. That contract increased the company's value by 50%. It was absolutely their business. And it's definitely my business as a minority shareholder who would have been defrauded right alongside them." "You ungrateful." "I'm ungrateful. You've spent 15 years calling me a failure, mocking my career, telling me I'm worthless. At Sunday dinner, you called me worthless to my face because I got laid off. And now you want me to quietly sign away my inheritance so you can commit fraud." "This isn't about Sunday dinner." "No, it's about 49% of Grandpa's company. The shares he left me because he knew you'd do exactly this. He knew you'd try to sell out from under me the first chance you got. He had no right. He had every right. It was his company, and he was right about you. You've been trying to cheat the buyer, cheat me, and cash out quick before anyone realized what you were doing." "So what, you're going to block the sale? Out of spite?" "I'm not blocking anything. I'm considering a better offer, one where you and Uncle Mark get bought out. The workers keep their jobs, and I maintain my ownership stake in a profitable company. You'll get your money, you just won't get control anymore." The silence stretched long enough that I thought he'd hung up. "You can't do this," he said finally. "I already did. The new papers should arrive Monday. You can sign them or not. But if you don't, there's no sale at all. I'll keep my 49%, continue collecting my dividends, and keep showing up at every shareholder meeting for the next 30 years. Your choice." I ended the call. Monday morning, the new acquisition papers were delivered. The buyer would purchase my father and uncle's 51% for $22 million. I would retain my 49% stake, with guaranteed dividend payments and a seat on the advisory board. All current employees would be retained, with their benefits maintained. My father signed Tuesday. My uncle signed Wednesday. Thursday, the deal closed. My father and uncle walked away with $11 million each. They no longer had any ownership or control of Wallace Manufacturing. I received notification from the new owners that my quarterly dividend would be approximately $200,000. My 49% stake, now in a company properly valued and managed, was worth about $21 million if I ever chose to sell. I didn't attend any more Sunday dinners after that. My mother called a few times, asking why I was being difficult. I never explained. I just stopped showing up. My father called once, 6 months later. "You destroyed the family business." "No," I said. "Grandpa left me that business because he knew you would. I just protected what was mine." I hung up and blocked his number. The tech layoff had been a blessing in disguise. It gave me time to focus on my other investments, travel, and serve on the Wallace Manufacturing Advisory Board. The new owners were competent and honest. The company thrived. Sometimes failure looks like unemployment. Sometimes it looks like protecting your interests from your own family. Sometimes it's letting people believe you're worthless while you quietly control everything they need. My grandfather understood that. That's why he left me the signature they couldn't proceed without. They learned about reality checks after all, just not the ones they expected.